I opened that freezer and was just hit with the smell. And I knew immediately that it was too late. The meat was gone. And I just stood there in disbelief with the open freezer door for a few minutes because I didn't feel like this was real. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I'm Angela Kosovic, and welcome to the EndurHunt podcast. Join me as I share my experiences as an emergent hunter, offer advice on how to overcome challenges, and pursue your passion for hunting. I just had one of the worst experiences that a hunter can have. A few weeks ago, I went into the garage to grab some meat for the week that I could defrost. I keep all of our game meat. I meal prep some food as well. That all goes in the deep freezer that sits in the garage. Well, I went to go open that door a few weeks ago to find that I had lost everything. The freezer had been off for probably about a week. All of my meat was bad. And it was something that I never thought I would have to deal with. I've heard of people dealing with it before. I hadn't had to up until this point. Gosh, I never hope I have to again. That was such a gut wrenching moment for me. I want to share my story and what I'm doing so that hopefully you don't have to deal with the heartache that is losing all of the meat that you've worked so hard for. If you're a hunter, even if you're not a hunter and you just fill the freezer and buy food in bulk, this episode could save you hundreds of pounds of meat, like it would have for me, and a whole lot of heartache. Recently, as I said in the very intro, I went through the heartache of opening my freezer to find that I had lost probably about 200 pounds of meat. My wife and I both hunt. We hunt a lot every year and try to take multiple animals. And I opened that freezer and was just hit with the smell. And I knew immediately that it was too late. The meat was gone. And I just stood there in disbelief with the open freezer door for a few minutes because I didn't feel like this was real. I mean, we had literally just came back from a hunt in Texas in January where I got a deer, my wife got a deer, and I shot an aoudad. All of that is gone. In addition to the deer that we shot 2 seasons ago that we still had in the freezer, fortunately, because I didn't shoot anything last season in Tennessee. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And if you're listening to this and you're not a hunter, which chances are you're not listening to this if you're not a hunter, but if you're listening to this and you're not a hunter, you probably would be confused by how emotional this could feel. But I mean, you know, we took the lives of those animals. We don't take that for granted. We wanted to treat them right, use as much of the meat as possible, eat all of it, give them the respect that they deserve. And now it just feels like it's wasted. Yes, the meat is going to decompose and bacteria and other crap will eat it, but that's not the point. That's not actually what we're trying to do here. So how did I end up in this situation? We should probably start there. What actually happened? Because my freezer's not broken. My freezer actually works. The issue came from in the beginning of the year in Tennessee, we get lots of storms, tornado warnings, hail warnings, significant amount of rain. And we're in the middle of some home renovations right now. So we're redoing 3 bathrooms. We're doing it all ourselves. So I've gotten pretty good at looking at the storm warnings and moving stuff around in my garage so that we can get my wife's car in the garage and then I park my truck under a carport to protect him. Well, one of these times, one of these weekends, because it felt like it was every weekend for a month, one of those weekends moved everything around and knocked the plug for the freezer out. So this brings me to lesson number one. If you have your freezer in a garage, as I think most people do, if you need to move things around, pay attention to the plugs and double check that the freezer specifically is still plugged in when you're done. Because if I had thought of doing that, if I thought of validating that that was plugged in, I don't think I would be in this situation. So that's lesson number one. Check your plugs, make sure that things are actually on. And honestly, that makes this so much worse because this was 100% preventable. This is entirely my fault. I was rushing. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I was just trying to get things moved around as quick as possible so that I could get my wife's car into the garage. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I had no other thoughts. And if I had slowed down and just realized what I was doing, made sure that I checked, would not be in this situation. So all of the meat that just wasted, the animals whose lives were given for nothing, that is the burden that I have to bear. And I'm hoping that you haven't, if you're listening to this, I'm really hoping that you are not already in this situation. Maybe you're being proactive and thinking about protecting your meat before it's too late, because I certainly wish I did. As hunters, we tend to focus on the glamorous parts, going out and hunting, backpacking in, packing out, meat coming out heavy. We don't necessarily think as much about storage. Yes, we might think about coolers when we need to get our meat home from a trip, but when it comes to long term storage, actually keeping the meat, that's kind of an overlooked thing, in my opinion. It's very easy to assume that your freezer is going to be fine until you end up like me, where you open the door one day to be disappointed and have lost it all. So let's make this actionable for you. This is going to be a short one this week, but it is so impactful for me. I think it is incredibly important, and I want to share what I'm doing to help you out. After this happened, after I cleaned up the mess, I started researching what to do. I also put a post out on social media asking for any feedback or ideas that people have, and I received really two threads to pull. One was using a smart outlet that can monitor the electrical usage and potentially send you some alerts. The second is a dedicated freezer monitor that has a thermostat in it that reads the temperature and sends you notifications if the temperature goes above a certain level for a set period of time. I already had some smart outlets on hand, so I tried that. Did not work. It the at least the ones that I had don't have the ability to notify you if the power changes or if it goes off unexpectedly or something. So I kind of ruled that one out quickly. What I did end up getting, and this is just the one that I am using, there were so many options out there, but I wanted to use a brand that I was familiar with, that I trusted, that also had good reviews. So, what did I actually buy then? I bought the Govy Life Smart Thermostat R1. It has two components, I guess. It has the thermostat, which is battery powered, which I actually like, and it has a Wi Fi gateway. So the Wi-Fi gateway is plugged into your regular outlet and it connects to your internet and over to the thermostat itself. The thermostat is got a really long cord and has a digital display that is magnetic that you can just stick on the side of the freezer. Then the cord runs inside and the thermostat just sticks inside the freezer and reads the temperature constantly. What I really like about this is I actually like the thermostat being battery powered. So if I lose power in the house, I can still read the temperature inside the freezer. As long as I don't open the freezer, it should last more than a day without things going bad, or at least a day. But I like that I can monitor it so long as I'm home. If you're not home, this is something that you're going to have to consider. If you are not home and the power goes out, you most likely won't get a notification. I haven't tested that yet to see. Fortunately, we haven't lost power. But based on my understanding, once the gateway loses internet, there's no way for it to send you a notification. So you wouldn't get a notification that you lost power. And at that point, if you're not home for an extended period of time, you could be in trouble still. You can program in the app what you want your alarm settings to be. I'll have it overlaid on the screen if you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube. If you're just listening, I set mine that when it goes above 32 degrees, it will send me a notification and let me know. I have my freezer on one of the coldest settings, so usually it is 0 or negative, even in some cases. Probably lower that a little bit, especially because I only have stuff that we've recently bought in the freezer, but I want to keep it as cold as possible, generally speaking. One of the things that I've learned, this may sound stupid for those of you that know this, but freezers are not on all the time. They cycle on and off. So when you look, if you do get this model or anything else that shows you a graph over time of the temperature, you will see these spikes that come. So if you're watching this on video, you should see right now what that looks like. So see these spikes where it goes up and off and on and off. It does that for efficiency and to extend the life of the freezer, apparently. I had to research that because I didn't know. So at a minimum, I think every hunter should have something like this. You spend hundreds of dollars on tags, travel, gear, everything else that's involved in hunting. Even if you just hunt in your own state and you're not going out west, this is something that you need to take care of. The amount of time alone that you've spent investing in harvesting your meat is worth investing 40 bucks or whatever it costs now to get this smart thermostat. I do have a link in the description if you want to purchase the specific one that I've got. I will say, and I have a note in there as well, it is an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any more money, but if you do buy it, I do get some money back from the purchase. It's like pennies probably, but just saying that there for awareness sake that that is an affiliate link. But for me, this is a no-brainer. I can't believe that I had to learn this lesson the hard way. I thought I was better than that. But this isn't the solution in and of itself. I am a big believer in having defense in depth, so there are other things that you should consider as well. First, obviously, get the smart thermostat. You should have one. It is the cheapest thing you can do, the easiest thing you can do to protect your investment. If you have the ability to use a dedicated outlet or a dedicated circuit just for your freezer, I would suggest doing that depending on what your space is set up. I can't do that. I don't have enough outlets to do that. So my freezer is plugged in near my workbench in my garage, which unfortunately has lots of things plugged into it, but that is the closest outlet that I have that I can use. If you have the ability to use a dedicated outlet, I would highly suggest that. The last thing that I would suggest, and this is something that I did recently, I haven't had to use it yet, but I'm happy that I have it, is having a generator. And you could have like a whole home generator. I'm not going to go in depth about that, or you can use a standard gas generator, like a portable one. I have one of those. It is not powerful enough to run my entire house, but we have a generator outlet that is connected directly to our breaker box. So if we lose power from the utility company, I can go into the garage, I can get my generator, turn it on, and then flip the switch in the breaker box and turn all the outlets off, and then only turn on the specific ones I need after I get power running into the circuit. If we did lose power, I would 100% be making sure that my freezer is plugged in and has power from the generator and my fridge inside the kitchen. That would be my last recommendation. They are pretty expensive if you're going to get a good enough one to run multiple appliances, but highly recommend getting one of those as well because you just never know when you're going to need it, especially if you live in a place like Tennessee where we get storms all the time, especially in the spring. You want to have that peace of mind knowing that you've got power in case you need it. This has been a humbling experience for me. It reminded me that the hunt doesn't end when you get the meat home. Once the meat is butchered and in the freezer, we still have a duty to protect it and care for it and use it. If we want to respect the resource and be good advocates, like we tell people that we are, then we need to take care of the meat and make sure that it survives and gets to your plate. This is an important lesson that I learned the hard way, and I sincerely hope that you don't have to. If you're listening to this and it resonates with you, whether you've already experienced this or it gives you the idea to protect yourself, I would encourage you to send it to any of your hunting buddies because this is something that I just wish I didn't have to go through. And it's an important enough lesson that I feel it's worth sharing. Do yourself and your hunting buddies a favor, protect your freezer, get a smart thermostat. It can be the one that I put in the description or a different one. I don't actually care. I just want you to not have to go through the pain that I went through. Get it now before it's too late. This is one of those areas where you really need to be proactive. I don't want you to have to go through what I went through. That is it for this episode. Thank you for listening. I hope that this was beneficial to you. As always, I say time is our most valuable asset. I know for a fact that this episode is action oriented and can benefit most people probably listening to this because I think a smart thermostat is an afterthought. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments or if there's anything else that you recommend people do to protect their freezers, protect their meat. I would love to see that in the comments. Thank you, and I'll see y'all next time.